All right, what's up, y'all? This is your boy SSX 3000. Doing a special for tonight's special event. The brackets, the seasons are done with the tournaments for men's and women's. So the brackets have been revealed for the tournaments. We're going to start with the women's. I had to wait until the women's get announced first, and then we're going to roll into the men's, and we'll talk about the men's tournament going from there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the regions. We got Fort Worth, Sacramento, 2 Sacramentos and 2 Fort Worths. Region 1 and 2 and 3 are 2 and 4 are Sacramento, and region 1 and 3 are Fort Worth. Your number 1 seeds for the tournaments is UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and Texas. And I'm assuming that UConn is the overall number 1 seed since they're the most undefeated team of the conference. So we're going to go ahead and start with region 1. We got UConn taking on UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio. A lot of these games are going to be taken in March 20th, 21st. Then we have Iowa State taking on Syracuse. We have Maryland taking on Murray State, North Carolina and West Illinois, Notre Dame and Fairfield, Ohio State and Howard, Illinois, Colorado, and Vanderbilt and High Point. So clear as day, since they're already the overall number 1 seed, I have UConn coming out of this conference, out of this part of the bracket. I don't really see anybody being a significant threat. Maybe Notre Dame at best, but maybe Vanderbilt. But I don't see anybody really taking on the defending champs. So I got UConn coming out of this bracket of this conference. So we'll go ahead and go on to region 2 at Sacramento. I mentioned UCLA is the number 1 seed, overall seed. They're going to be taking on California Baptist. Then you got Oklahoma State taking the Princeton. Ole Miss will be facing Gonzaga. Minnesota and Green Bay are going to be facing each other. Baylor will be waiting for the winner of the 11th to be determined, 11th seed. You got Duke taking on Charleston, Texas Tech, Villanova, and LSU in Jacksonville. I think this one's pretty interesting just because you have Duke here, you have Baylor here, and you have LSU. I'm going to go ahead and pick LSU to come out of this one. They have enough experience that I could think they could pull it off, maybe, but we got to see what's going to happen. UCLA is the number 1 overall seed. I don't know. I have a feeling that LSU could pull off the bracket. They'll move into the Final Four. All right, moving over to Region 3 in Fort Worth, we have Texas and to be determined 16th seed. We have Oregon taking on Virginia Tech, Kentucky taking on James Madison, West Virginia and Ohio, Miami of Ohio, Alabama and Rhode Island both going to be taking on each other. Louisville and Vermont, and then NC State and Tennessee, and then Michigan and Holy Cross. I predict that Texas, who beat South Carolina, by the way, in the SEC tournament, is probably going to come out of this conference. They do have some heavy hitters in Michigan. Louisville is a threat as well, and Kentucky themselves are a threat. But at the end of the day, I think Texas is going to pull off the upset. And then Region 4, we have South Carolina, 16th seed to be determined, Clemson and USC, Michigan State, Colorado State, Oklahoma, Idaho, Washington, South Dakota State, TCU, UC San Diego, Georgia, and a 10th seed to be determined, and Iowa and FDU. I think it's Fair Dickinson, if I remember, Fair Dickinson University. South Carolina's my pick. Look, TCU's in this division. I'm going to pick South Carolina. I'm not going to bet against South Carolina. In fact, I probably have South Carolina going all the way, to be honest with you. So that's going to be picked come out of this conferences. So your first 4 matchups, the ones that are to be determined for 11th seed, you got Richmond versus Nebraska. 16th seed, you got Missouri State and St. Austin. SF Austin. 16th seed Sutherland taking on Samford, and Arizona State is going to be taking on Virginia. So I have South Carolina, Texas, LSU, UConn. UConn should be able to. I think UConn and South Carolina will be an interesting matchup since I think they already faced each other this year. This could be the turning point game. And then LSU and Texas, they've already faced each other this year in the conferences. I will have Texas going passing by LSU in the Final Four, and I'll have South Carolina avenging the loss against UConn and going to the championship, and then I have South Carolina win the championship. against Texas in a rematch of the SEC championship. There you go. Those are going to be my picks for this one. And then we're going to go ahead and roll into the men's. The men's came out earlier today. The overall seed, the number one seeds are Duke, Arizona, Florida, and Michigan. I think Arizona is the overall number one seed, and as followed, Duke is going to be the number one seed for the East. Arizona's for number one seed for the West. Michigan's going to be the number one seed for Midwest, and Florida's number one seed for the South. We'll go ahead and start with the East. We got Duke taking on Siena, Ohio State, TCU, St. John's, Northern Iowa, Kansas, California Baptist, my bad, Louisville and South Florida, Michigan State and Dakota, North Dakota State, UCLA and UCF, and UConn and Furman. This one's interesting. So UConn is the number 2 seed. You also have Michigan State, who's still in there, and St. John's is also a interesting team. But Duke should be able to pull through this one. The Boozer boys are Carlos Boozer's sons are no joke. That team is very good, and honestly, outside of maybe UConn and Michigan State, I just don't see a lot of teams out of this bracket beating Duke. So I'll have Duke rolling on to the Final Four. Then we're going to go over to the West. We got Arizona, Long Island, Villanova, Utah State, Wisconsin, High Point, Arkansas, and Hawaii, BYU, and a number 11 seed to be determined, Gonzaga, Kennesaw State, Miami, and Missouri, Purdue, and Queens. Also, let me give a special shout out to the University of Miami for actually turning their conference, basically their team around, because last year this team was not even close to sniffing the tournament, and since they hired their new coach, they have actually made the tournament and was in the number 7 seed. I think they did very well. They were all the way up to the semifinals of the ACC tournament. They did lose against a very good Virginia team, so shouts out to them. With that being said, I have Arizona winning this one. Purdue is a very good team who's won the Big Ten championship recently against Michigan. They're probably the biggest threat to Arizona. I don't see any other teams that's a bigger threat than them. So with that being said, Arizona should win this one, although I will probably give a close nod to Purdue as well, because they are a very good team. Now we're going to roll over to the Midwest region, where despite the fact that they lost the Big Ten championship, Michigan is the number 1 seed in this conference, in this part of the bracket, and a 16 team to be determined. Georgia will be sitting on St. Louis, Texas Tech and Akron, Alabama and Hofstra. Tennessee is going to be waiting the winner of 11 seed to be determined. Virginia and Wright State, Kentucky and Santa Clara, and then we got Iowa State and Tennessee. So this one, I don't have Michigan winning this. I don't know why, but I just don't think Michigan is a very strong number 1 seed. They've lost against Duke early in the season, and they lost against the Big Ten tournament against Purdue. So if I had to pick a team that could potentially come out of this conference, Iowa State is a good one. Kentucky is another good one. In Virginia, I'm going to go with Virginia. I think Virginia is a really good team. I think Virginia is probably the other ACC team that could compete with most of these teams. So I'm going to pick Virginia to come out of this conference in an upset. I don't see Michigan coming out of this, but as a number 1 seed, they don't really scare me compared to other teams. And then we're going to go over the South region. So Florida is the number 1 seed with a 16 seed to be determined for this team, because you got to wait for the first 4. Clemson, Iowa, Vanderbilt, McNeese, Nebraska, Troy, North Carolina, VCU, Illinois, Penn, St. Mary's, Texas A&M, and Houston and Idaho. So Houston lost against the Arizona in the Big 12 championship. Florida is the number 1 seed, despite the fact that they never made the SEC championship tournament final. They lost. I forgot who they lost against. I think it was maybe Vanderbilt. And I know, although they're defending champs, I don't feel too confident in this one. This is another one that I'm kind of leaning towards either North Carolina or Houston to come out of this bracket. My head says Houston, but my heart says North Carolina. I don't know what is about North Carolina. I think that North Carolina is a strong enough team that should be able to weather the storm, even though they lost against Clemson in the ACC semifinal championship. I think that they can avenge they can use that loss as fuel to push themselves through the brackets, especially if you got Illinois team at 3, which they could probably beat. Then they can run the game table. And then they can go and face up in Houston. If they could beat Houston, I have them going all the way. I don't see Florida come out of this one. I'm sorry. Florida may had a good run last year but as a defending national champs, I don't see that happening this year. So I'm gonna go with North Carolina. For the first 4, we have NC State, Texas, SMU, Miami of Ohio, Howard, UMBC. I think it's Maryland. I forgot what the BC stand for. Don't ask me. And Lehigh and Prairie View. So of the teams that I've picked, North Carolina, Virginia, Duke, and Arizona. Duke and North Carolina would be a very interesting Final Four match. Oh, your cross-state rivals in a Final Four game. Yes, that would be a very entertaining match. I still will pick, even though North Carolina has beat them, and Duke, I think, beat them too. I will roll with Duke to win that game. I just think they know each other too well, but I think the Carlos Boozer's son will lead this team. He's going to be the #1 draft pick, by the way. He's going to lead this team to the national title if he beats North Carolina. And then Arizona State and Virginia. I will roll with Arizona over Virginia. And in the national title game, I'm going to pick Arizona to win. I know it's kind of cliche to pick Arizona, but I think that Duke's and its youth is going to catch up to them eventually, because they're not a team that they can't be beat. They're very beatable, but I think the Arizona, despite the loss they had early on in the season, they were the #1 overall. They were the #1 team at one point. Should be able to use that fuel to get them over to the championship, and then we're going to see Arizona and LeBron James' son win a national title. There you go. So those are my picks for the men's and the women's. I'll have this recording up very soon. Thank y'all so much, and y'all have a wonderful night. Peace.